Okay, hi everyone. My name is Hannah Tyreman, and I work at the Sheffield College as a learning improvement and development manager. So essentially, what that means is staff development, new staff, old staff, all of the staff, and it's teaching staff plus support staff as well. So it's kind of all colleagues and just making sure that they get a fantastic learning experience. So recently, in order to just maximise what I was doing in my new role, which is just a continuation, I guess, of the role I had at my previous college, Reading, where we'd been quite experimental with the development and we'd tried a lot of new things, we'd learned a lot from it. And what I wanted to do coming to Sheffield was just really identify the best bits of what we'd done at Reading, but also just move it forward and make it a little bit more evidence based in terms of what other people were saying was really effective for learning within education organisations, and also further afield as well, I've started to look at recently. And I think one of the biggest things that struck me were comments around what a great learning experience looked like for students, sort of a class of students or an individual student, versus what it looked like for staff. And the two things just looked completely different. Staff were being kind of expected to do collaborative stuff with their students, projects, really reflective learning, maybe more experimental. And if you think about a vocational context, that learning is kind of really practice based. So the students should get plenty of time to kind of have purposeful practice and really hone their skills and the attributes that they've got. And when you look at the staff experience of learning in the workplace, it just doesn't look anything like that. It's workshops, it's sessions where you'll go to something and you'll get told how to do your job, but actually there'll be zero time to implement it and to practice it and to kind of fail and to learn from that and to collaborate and talk with other staff about how it's gone and how you're going to do it next time, and reflecting on how it's going in practice in the classroom and returning to reflect on that. So a lot of what I've started to look at is how we build in more opportunity for staff to really get together and do that. And I think one of the biggest barriers, particularly in FE, is that we don't have shared timetables. We don't have time that when we can really get together. Looking at a lot of school models, and it's not to say that within a school it's really easy, because obviously it's not. You've still got incredible challenges there, but what they do have is that they do have sort of a finish time that they all share, or they have a particular kind of Wednesday afternoon where it is a little bit easier to collapse timetables. What you end up with in further education are kind of all those barriers around everyone's on a different timetable. You've got some staff who will work full-time, some part-time, some will come in on an evening and actually not start until 6 o'clock, so they miss a lot of the time during the day, and actually just getting staff together is really, really difficult. So that's part of something that we're going to be looking at doing. We've started to consider how we might use kind of breakfast sessions or twilight sessions. Something a colleague started at Reading and I've chatted about with my new boss here, is just the idea of coffee and cake, and just kind of putting together some refreshments just to get people in a room together. And we don't have to facilitate anything in particular, but just so that they have time to talk about learning and to reflect on how things are going. Within departments, I think people can get together a little bit easier, because perhaps there's some similarity kind of in timetables there. But beyond that, they can't ever escape their department. And so what you end up with are lots of silos of kind of people doing the same things, same sort of practice, same sort of approach to teaching within the classroom. But actually, they're never able to see what anyone else is doing or to get those other experiences and other interpretations. And I think recently, I suppose I reflected a lot more on my own learning experiences and kind of what's made that really effective for me. And a lot of the best experiences I've had have been Through Twitter. And it wasn't Twitter at the start of using Twitter, because I think at the start I was overwhelmed by all the great ideas and the things people were sharing on this amazing social network. And I kind of tapped into a lot of it, and I thought, yeah, this is great, this is great, this is great. And I tried out almost everything in my classroom. And I think my students must have thought I was going crazy, because I was just trying out all these new things. And it was really exciting. And it did really invigorate my practice. But what I've found better about Twitter, and Google Plus even, is connecting with educators in a little bit more of a focused way. So one of the things I did down in Reading was that I'd met Amjad Ali, who's got a fantastic toolkit for educators. He's really well followed on Twitter, and I found out he lived in pretty much the same area. And so we decided to get a teach meet together so that we could get his staff together, our staff together, and we could share these ideas in person. And therefore, rather than it just being the ideas, we could collaborate and talk and reflect and kind of have a drink, have some snacks, and really sort of network and have those really valuable conversations that kind of turn that learning into something that's actually going to hold within practice and that might get carried out. So that was a really great connection to make. When I made that connection, I started to look at other people that might influence my learning. And so I guess I connected with you, Martin. You were definitely one of the people that I connected with in terms of sharing technology and learning from other educators about what they were doing. And I guess in slightly more of an in-depth way than Twitter would give you. So Twitter was kind of giving you the surface level, and then there were all these educators starting to do videos and that kind of thing. So that led to a more in-depth learning experience for me. And I think other educators that I met with, I then went to visit them in the workplace to sort of see how they were doing learning and development, or how they were approaching something. So when I started to think about that, I thought that kind of thing needs to happen within the workplace more often. I was going external to get all of this. And so we really need to provide those opportunities for educators to just get together and find out how someone else does something. One other way of really being able to do that is kind of just observing them in the classroom, just going in to observe a colleague, and just see how they do it, because every single one of us in a classroom will do it in a slightly different way. We might be using the same activities, we might be teaching the same content, but we'll set it up in a different way, or we'll question the learners in a different way, or we'll choose to group them in a different way. And it might not be a better way, but it does get us to reflect on our own practice. And one of the things I was reading recently, I can't totally remember the name of it, but it was better kind of teaching and learning for teachers, trainers and assessors. So it was purely within a further education context. And it was a fairly, I guess it was 2010 the piece was written in. So fairly dated in terms of other things that I've been looking at. But the two things that they were saying was affecting staff learning the most was collaboration and reflection. And those are the two things that I just think we're deprived of as educators. We can do all the online learning stuff and we can connect ourselves as much as possible, but collaboration and reflection, we don't get enough of. And so I guess a lot of what I'm starting to look at, I'll give you a little bit of a teaser, and I'm not going to share it completely at this point, but we're kind of launching a project for staff. It's called the Big Learning Project. And so it's going to involve a lot of collaboration, a lot of reflection, and a little bit of design thinking as well. Design thinking is something I came across through Gazelle colleges. So they're really into that approach, just for kind of looking at a problem that you've got maybe in the classroom or just in the workplace and in your job in general. And you look at it from a people point of view. So it forces you to think about the people you're interacting with. So I guess for a teacher, it's your students. And for an LSA, it's your students. And for other people, I guess it's your colleagues or maybe customers within the organisation. And it's how you can address that challenge or problem in a little bit of a creative way. So the necessary elements for design thinking are collaboration and they are reflection. So hopefully by getting staff together over coffee and cake or over some breakfast, we can kind of get some problem solving going as well. And those challenges that educators are facing day in, day out and kind of really getting frustrated at in their classrooms or with their students, by getting staff together, I'm hoping that we can kind of do some creative problem solving and get some projects going, get some experiments going, input some of that purposeful practice that's really important, get some peer observation so that staff can see each other more often and just have a look at how someone else does it. So yeah, that's really exciting, and it incorporates a lot of what I've been reading recently.
One of the things you were talking about there was design thinking. I've read quite a few bits and pieces about shifting from what you might call systems thinking to design thinking. You know, and so much of education is system bound, talking about systems thinking, processes and stuff like that, rather than the participants and starting with them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's their experience and what they're getting out of it. And I think you sort of look at the companies that have used it and they've come up with something that really works for the person using it. And you're kind of like, well, that totally makes sense. And I think in education, a lot of the time, we look at what's out there and what already exists, and therefore how it can fit the situation, rather than kind of starting with the situation and inventing something that will solve that problem. It's almost like we shoehorn a solution in. I don't know.
Right. I call this transplant rejection. You know, like transplanting organs. Exactly. Like you go off, you see it in another institution or another place. Toby was talking about this. And then you say, oh, we'll just do that here. Solutions. We'll do it here. But without all the drugs and that for the organ transplant, you know, without
exactly.
It's trying to keep it going. It so often fails. It's not got a quick fix. All the things that were responsible for the conditions of its success elsewhere aren't necessarily copied across with the thing itself, the system. It's always good to try to adjust it. The other thing you were talking about there was spot on, I thought, about first of all that you start with the learners and their experience, but the staff experience is so different, as if we've stopped learning, we're only teaching. You know,
exactly.
You know, and I wonder how many people, like, this is your job, but how many people do keep up to date, keep experimenting, keep trying things out, new methods and stuff, or just fitting in the system. And of course, close to my heart, one of my favourites, of course, is connectivism. That idea of the network effects in teaching and learning, and just having those opportunities, like you were saying. To bring people together, you don't have to do much actually. Maybe
exactly.
Yeah, coffee and tea and biscuits as a catalyst. You know, but and it's not rocket science, and it used to happen a lot. Trouble is, cutbacks, funding problems, and the workloads. All those things have been, the intangible has been taken out, and staff don't have the time to do this, like you say. And of course, most important of all is connecting outside your filter bubble. You know, your
immediate kind of context and circle.
As well, you know, your department. But then the real changes happen, don't they, when you connect outside your bubble or outside your department. In those events and those things that you can.
I think that's the really transformational bit. And I think in one of the things I was reading, there was a theory about, I need to read it more, but it was about human capital versus social capital. And I want to read about it a little bit more, but this lady had done some research just into kind of how an individual was affected by engaging with their learning. And if it was done kind of in isolation and as an individual, which I think we've put a lot of the emphasis on recently, that they could be kind of go so far in terms of their ability and their effectiveness in the classroom. But actually, if you brought in the social capital and you gave them opportunities to collaborate and to connect with others, then actually their skills needn't be as high, but they were brought up by the fact that they had other people to talk to about their practice. And so their skills could remain at the same level, but the social capital added on this layer above where they could kind of do so much more with the skills they had, because they kind of had other people to bounce off of, and sort of have that connection with. So I found that really interesting and something I want to look at a little bit more, I think.
It's network effects, emergent network effects. The sum of the greater than the sum of the parts business.
Exactly.
Because education is so much about isolation. You know, students doing testing the teacher in the classroom on their own.
Exactly.
Not on their own, but they've got 25, 30 children or students amongst them, but pretty much on the. The idea popped into my mind was talking about that, about radical transformation of education and learning, if such thing was possible, where students are doing more project-based work, real-based work, and the teachers are there as a team. Of somebody that's good at doing social networking, someone that's got the science. It's not new, because I remember when I started as a teacher in the dawn of time, back in the 1982, 1983, before many teachers were even born, I think now, that we did projects. I remember doing a project on a radio project, and it brought in the science team, where the students were building little crystal radio sets in science and learning about magnetic effect, electronic, and all the rest of it. Then they were doing performing arts to do the scripts and everything like that. Then they were doing computing. In fact, unfortunately, what computing came in the end was but they used PageMaker for desktop publishing to create the publicity for it, and then they did an exhibition. They put on the radio show. And that cut across all the different subject areas. And that was, how long ago was that? More than 30 years ago.
Exactly.
And I sometimes wonder, where on earth have we gone now? Where to try and pull that off today is quite difficult.
I mean, when I started to look into all of this kind of research and looking at learning for staff and how it worked best, I think I started to wonder, like, why can't we do this, and why isn't it happening, and why have we kind of got to this situation where learning is sort of something that we have to shoehorn in and make time for, rather than it being the thing that we do, and everything else comes from that. And I don't know, I guess I started thinking about, we spend so little time thinking about sort of the longer term stuff and the projects that will have impact over time. A lot of the shift in education has come to this sort of, we need immediate impact and we need it yesterday. And I think that kind of culture definitely leads to us not giving learning the time that it deserves. But I was chatting to Rachel George, a colleague of mine at Reading, who's just doing fantastic things. She's one of the most amazing educators I've ever met. But she said to me that a colleague had been to see her the other day, and it said, look, somebody told me that you're brilliant with embedding English and maths, and I've got these learners, they're level 1, they're really challenging me, and I haven't got any clue about how to go about it and how to do it. And I think what was brilliant is that, he felt able to do that, and that there was such a culture of sharing that he kind of had the opportunity to go and speak to her in the first place. But actually what she said to me now is that she's going to connect his level 1 learners with her level 2 learners, and they're going to do a project together because they teach at the same time, and they're going to go out into town and kind of do these really relevant projects over time, that the students will kind of help one another and the teachers can kind of learn together. And it is that thing of team teaching that we've really lost, particularly with all the cutbacks in FE. It used to happen a lot that teachers would kind of work together and team teach together, but there's such value in that, and sort of those joint projects could just be amazing learning experiences for the educators just as much as the students. So I'd really love to kind of tap into that sort of work a little bit more and just maximize that. It's quite exciting.
It would be nice if some of the, well, not directly the FELTAG stuff, but some of the I won't say pressure, but some of the ideas about blending learning, letting them free up some teacher time to do exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Network, share, team.
Yeah.
Instead of just cutting teachers' time.
I
think that, unfortunately, we are a kind of cusp here. I'm not sure. Many colleges, because of the cutbacks, would see the blended learning, I think, as a way of cutting teacher time. And instead of standing in front of a class, you could be doing staff development.
Exactly.
fantastic. I doubt if it's going to happen in most places, but it would be good if it does. So there is opportunity there, Hannah.
Yeah, there is. Handed to us on a plate, really. I think technology does that, is that, you know, a class in Sheffield could connect with a class elsewhere and they could do a project together. And actually, the educators then learn off each other as well. And that for CPD would just be brilliant. And I think technology has a lot of the answers and it does provide a lot of opportunity for this kind of thing to happen. I'm just looking at getting a group of educators here at Sheffield together, actually, who have a similar job role. Some of them are really new to it. It's kind of a job coach role. And a couple of them were just saying, I want to know what other people are doing and how they're doing it, but they never get a chance to get together. So I've tried to get sort of their times of availability and things, but I think video is going to help us in that respect, in that I can just get them together. We can have a cup of tea or coffee with us and we can just talk through approaches that we're using, and really people, you know, staff just want support as well as development, and development will come from that, but initially it's just that they need that connection and they need that support. So yeah, technology is going to be an answer to a lot of things as per usual, but yeah.